A Nolan Wells bombshell report tonight. Does it reveal new witnesses? And because of the new timeline report, is there a timeline shift in what happened the afternoon and evening? Nolan Wells seemingly disappears. His body found washed up at Horn Island. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. What is in that autopsy?
Now I really want to see the other autopsy to see, is there trauma to the body? Is there something that happened?
I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
I have no doubt that what we're listening to and what she did is credible.
Not only has the timeline been analyzed by the Cajun Navy, the U.S. Cajun Navy, based on all sorts of statistical data, new photos are emerging. Take a look at this photo before we go to the Cajun Navy. Look at this. Check out what you're seeing. Look at all the boats surrounding where Nolan was. Leave up the photo out to Caitlin Becker, senior national correspondent, New York Post, star of New York Postcast, their new podcast. Caitlin, what are we seeing?
Well, what we're seeing here comes from this new report from the United Cajun Navy, and you're seeing several boats strung together. This is one of the first images that we've seen of this certain configuration of boats there. They're all identified, one of which was the boat that Nolan came out there on. There's several others kind of anchored with it and tied up, which begs the question of, where was Nolan when this photo was taken? Because it's unclear if he's actually in it. What time was this photo actually taken? So what you're seeing here is, as you said, a potential pool of witnesses.
Hey, Caitlin, look at this. There's boat number 1. There's boat X. There's boat number 2. There's boat number 3. And there's a boat from which the photo is taken. Now, look in the water. There much has been made. Nolan Wells was drinking. Okay, well, apparently everybody was. They all have containers, open containers in the water. Okay, as far as I know, that's not a felony. Boat number 1, full of people. Boat X, full of people. Boat number 2, full of people. Boat number 3, full of people. People on the boat from which the photo was taken. Some of these boats tied together. You know what that means in my world, Caitlin Becker, joining us from the New York Post? Let me see, Caitlin, please. That means witnesses. See, when I look at that, I see witnesses. Other people say, hey, there's people having a good time. I see witnesses. Do you see all those people?
And a lot of them.
Who were they? Have they been spoken to? Have they been polygraphed? What can they tell me?
That is the question, right? We don't know from an investigative standpoint who has been spoken to, exactly who is in this photo, and what they have or haven't told law enforcement, because there hasn't been really any transparency there. But from what our reporting has showed, there have been dozens of people who have spoken to law enforcement as witnesses. But Nancy, we don't know if it's any of these people that you're seeing in this little cove area right here. And the timing, I think, is really important because these images are taken right around, I think the timeline's about 3:30-ish, 4:30-ish, when the boat that Nolan came out there on leaves and starts taking on water. That's one of the pegs for the timeline. When these photos were actually taken, that is a peg for a timeline. But what we don't know is where Nolan is. There he is. You can see that image right there. But we don't know is where Nolan was when that first image that we saw with all of those boats kind of tied together, when that was taken.
You are seeing a photo obtained by our friends at the United Cajun Navy. And speaking of the United Cajun Navy, joining me now is Brian Trasher, Vice President, United Cajun Navy. And for all of you attacking the United Cajun Navy, let's see that aerial footage they provided us. This is from the Cajun Navy describing their search, their aerial search. They spotted Nolan Wells' body. They have been integral in the search for
A Jackson County deputy told the press no foul play was suspected. That was July 6th. By July 21st, Nancy Grace had convened a 1-hour special. A grand jury was reportedly empaneled, and the Department of Justice was fielding calls. That is a shift in momentum that does not happen by accident. It happens when someone with a national platform decides a case is not going to disappear. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Project Cold Case. Because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. The initial official narrative was straightforward: a tragic 4th of July drowning. Nolan Wells, 18 years old, rowed out to Horn Island on a boat called the Triton. The boat had bilge pump trouble. His friends say they left without him because he wanted to stay behind and talk to a girl named Katie. He was found dead 2 days later. The sheriff said no crime was committed. Case closed.
That's Gabby's Ford Transit. And they call authorities who would never have gone to this dispersed camping area, and they find her remains. That's how the case was cracked. Who knows what photo, what tip United Cajun Navy or law enforcement or the Nolan Wells team might get that might crack this case wide open. So that said, Brian, how did you create this timeline? I find it very interesting.
So first of all, going back to your comment about internet sleuths, a lot of people consider themselves internet sleuths, but some people really are good. And there's one young lady who's helped us out on many cases, who was very helpful in this case. I haven't asked her permission yet if I could say her name, but if she gives me permission and I come back on, I'll be happy to give her credit for all the help she gave us. But basically, what we did was we took these pictures, we juxtaposed them to, like Google Earth and satellite pictures of the island to try to determine exactly where they were. We looked at the initial coordinates called out from I think from the Coast Guard or from Marine Patrol when the missing persons report first went out, and basically just try to run these pictures against each other to say, okay, this boat's here now, it's not here later, and again, just create an index. We had to use some software to help us create the index of the pictures and make sure we put it into the best timeline we could. We included social media posts that, may or may not have been definitive, but this was happening in real time. So we thought it was important to put those up there to create context. And so again, just trying to, our goal was to take what we've received, put it into a digestible format that just about anybody could understand, hopefully. And if it's helpful, great. If it's...
That's not an investigation. That's an assumption dressed up as a conclusion. We keep coming back to the same question. Every investigation starts somewhere. But where did this one actually begin? Because it appears to have begun with a declaration of innocence rather than a pursuit of facts. Now, let's talk about Katie. The friends told Nolan's mother that he stayed with a girl named Katie. At first, they claimed they didn't know her, had never seen her before. Then it emerged they had been texting with her. Her sister gave a different account, telling the Daily Mail that Katie believed Nolan was getting ready to board the boat with his friends, and that the friends wouldn't have left without him.
Brian Trasher joining us, Vice President, United Cajun Navy, on the case from the very beginning. Brian, do we know the time of the CETO call made from the Triton?
We do. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I know it's been reported, and obviously the CETO would have the exact time of that recording and stuff in their archives. But it seems like it was after 3 o'clock, before 4:30. And we know that the tow was canceled because somebody got in touch with Bart Edmondson, who ended up towing the boat himself, being a good Samaritan. And of course, now that poor guy is getting, raked over the coals just for being a good, what we try to tell everybody to be: neighbor helping neighbor.
Now, didn't the grandpa call and cancel the tow?
Yeah, I think that I saw that report as well, and it may have been that somebody contacted him and said, hey, we got somebody to tow us. So maybe he called because he had a better signal and said, hey, they don't need it anymore. Again, these are all kind of, the things that were already out there. I don't think we included too much about that in our report because it had been reported on so much. But I also just wanted to point out too on the photo on page 14. This is one that we included, even though we could. There's a young man that matches Nolan's description, and I'm saying it that way because we can't verify that it's him in this picture, and he's partially in it because there's a girl blocking him. But it's a young, slender African American male wearing blue swim trunks, from what you could see in the picture. According to the person that submitted that photo, it was taken at approximately 4:50 p.m. Central Time on July 4th, which would have been after the GPS data says that the Triton had left Horn Island. Now, that's only relevant if this young man in the picture actually turns out to be Nolan. We never could verify it, but we thought it was important enough to at least include as a possible.
The independent autopsy commissioned by the family could not determine cause or manner of death, a finding that effectively contradicted the local coroner's preliminary assessment. The state autopsy has been completed, but will be withheld until a grand jury reviews it. A grand jury that is now convening. That sequences itself an admission that the initial dismissal was premature at best. Except it was never closed. And the reason it is not closed is because the evidence does not align with a simple drowning.
Indications support one sequence. What do the official autopsy and genuine toxicology findings establish? Does professional analysis identify meaningful content in the original CETO audio? Can physical, digital, medical, environmental, and testimonial evidence support one coherent conclusion without forcing disputed or unresolved facts into a preferred account? Nolan traveled to Horn Island, but he did not return with his original group. His final movements and definitive medical explanation remain unresolved. Christine and Elmore deserve a complete, evidence-supported account. Witnesses and other named individuals equally must not be treated as guilty without verified proof. The final question is whether unified evidence can explain what happened after Nolan's last reliable sighting. Subscribe to True Crime News Report and activate notifications for verified updates. Comment respectfully on which evidence deserves priority, and share this documentary so authenticated reporting reaches farther than misinformation.